Good morning. This is Rich Sierra with the Florida Small Business Legal Center. I am the host of Business SOS podcast. This is episode number 30th of Business SOS. We started this a few months ago. Very excited, providing you great content. I'd like you to participate in the show. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer for you, any type of legal issue that you would like me to address, send me an email at rich@richsierra.com. And if I select your question and I basically address it in the show, I will not mention your name and will not be considered legal advice, simply more of a broad topic, but I'll address that question that you sent to me. I'll send you a free copy of my book, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and also you can ask for it in your local bookstores. Today's a very special episode. It's a family episode. We have here today Mike Sierra. I call him Michael. He's my son. And my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, Caroline Castillo. They're partners in business and in real life. So I'm very excited to bring them here because we're going to talk about partnerships today. And in the last few episodes back, I talked about partnership disputes and what makes partnerships, why they do not work. So I thought I'd bring somebody, a couple that will actually tell us why their partnership works and kind of more of a positive thought. And I think they're a perfect example on how to share that with us. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. We're really excited about this. So
for the benefit of the audience, tell us about your background, your business background, Caroline.
Okay, yeah. So graduated from UCF. Right out of there, just went straight into venture capital. So I interned at Florida Angel Nexus, which became one of the biggest investor groups in the state of Florida. Eventually became a partner there. And then we sold the business in 2018. And then I eventually started Clickable Impact, the marketing agency. So usually people, go backwards. They start in, something normal and then they go into venture capital. But I kind of did it in an interesting way. And then now we're here. We have not only the agency, but different things that we invest into, different brands that we grow, and it's a lot of fun. And I get to do it with someone I love.
That is awesome. So, Michael, tell us more about your background. I know it, but the audience does not know it. Tell me more about you.
So after I went to UCF, while I was there at UCF, I became obsessed with figuring out how I can basically make money while I sleep. And that led me into e-commerce. So as a senior in college with no money, started an e-commerce store, became pretty successful. Eventually that completely failed. And then I met Caroline. She offered me a job because I needed one at the time. And then we started the marketing agency together and then eventually became business partners and then life partners.
That is awesome. You mentioned that the business failed, but, in talking prior episodes, and in fact, in the last episode that I had Kate Delaney. She's a, very well-known journalist, and also she's a host of America Tonight radio show. She talked about failure. She talked about, in business, sometimes you're going to fail, and that's the way we learned. So, and it's very difficult to find a business owner who's been doing this for a long time, who has some time in their career, things have not gone well. And I'm sure you learn from that experience. I've learned from my experiences almost every single day. So it is part of the learning process. We don't fail, we learned. So I wanted to bring you here because you have a very interesting background, both of you. You have digital marketing expertise. You also have a brand, Flypath Golf, but also you also are business partners. So tell me, what makes your partnership work? What is your secret? You will.
Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I think our business partnership works best because right when we became business partners, I asked Caroline, how does she handle conflict? Because I learned from my first business failure. And that business failure, we had huge disagreements. And part of it was because we had communication issues with my business partners. My business partners wouldn't be upfront or direct with what was actually an issue for them. And that caused a lot of friction because I'm not a mind reader. I can't solve a problem I don't know about. So the first thing I asked Caroline was, how do you handle conflict? She said upfront and immediately. And that was a thing to me because that's how I like to handle conflict, upfront and immediately. I don't want it to like linger. I don't want it to be just in the background, creating animosity. And I think that's one of the key reasons why our partnership works so well, because we don't let anything just linger on.
Thing about conflict, it's not like wine. It does not get better with age. So.
Yeah. Well, I think conflict is all about how you communicate too. So, there's going to be different struggles or challenges that we go through in the business just from having a business, no matter how simple your business is. So one question that helps us go from, what could be an argument in a normal relationship to just a very good critical conversation is one question. Are you venting to me or do you want my advice? That's what we always ask. So if one of us is frustrated and saying something, hey, this, retail deal or this internet deal isn't working. I'm frustrated about this, blah, blah, blah. Then Mike asked me, well, are you venting or do you want my advice? Because I think a lot of significant others, they always assume that the other person needs their advice. So they just start giving it. And really, like, a lot of times we just need a hug, just humans want love, So I think if every couple asks that when the other party is like frustrated, I think that would solve a lot of communication issues too.
Yeah, and sometimes we just want somebody to listen to.
Yeah,
you listen to necessarily the advice, but that's a very good point, Caroline. So, Michael, when we're talking about the interview before, in the pre-interview, you mentioned about 10 basic values that, you told me that, one of the things that really has helped us in something that we align in our values. So do you mind sharing with us what are those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 10 basic values that I believe all couples or anyone in a relationship really should agree upon is number one is trust. You have to be able to trust the other person. Loyalty. You guys have to be on the same team, no matter what. Religion. If you don't believe in the same like spiritual God, that's going to cause friction. Family. You agree on like specific family values. How important is it to see each other's families? Communication styles is another one. Lifestyle, honesty, self-discipline, self-improvement, and finances. So those are the 10 values that everyone needs to agree upon.
And the way that they kind of happened, we had just different couples, either power couples, super successful that we would travel with, or just friends that we, just became friends over the years. They just kept coming to us in different ways, whether it was just like a fight right in front of us. Like we had a fight we didn't have a fight, but we had a friend couple. They just fought in the middle of us going on a trip to Colorado, randomly about a jacket, right, in the mountains. She wanted to go back to the Airbnb and grab a jacket. He wanted to buy the jacket, there, because he was like, let's save time. And really, that's not a fight over a jacket. It's a fight over values, So that's when Mike and I got thinking, we're like, what does make our relationship work? We have a lot of talks about the values and all of our values constantly. We're constantly like making sure we're on the same page and molding our visions together. And then we had, just more and more couples that were having these types of issues. So that's kind of how we just developed these over time. What are all those elements that we talk about together and, giving these to our friends and saying, here are the 10 things you got to agree on. It's funny, but it's like, we built our own methodology basically.
That is awesome. You should actually write a book about that. It's very good.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, obviously business owners don't necessarily have to have that personal relationship. Yeah. So what are the values from your list of 10, what are the values that a business partnership should consider?
Yeah, that's good. I think there's a lot of continuities with these 10 values. I would maybe say, like, to make it simple, let's talk about what we would take out, right?
Yes.
Trust. You need to have trust in your business partner. So I would keep that one. Loyalty, I would keep that one as well. Religion, I don't think you need to have the same belief as your business partner. Family, not as much. That's more about having kids, not having kids, and how do you value your family? Not as important there. I've had partners in the past that, maybe they spend Christmas with family or maybe they work on Christmas. It doesn't really matter. I would say for communication, that's like the number one thing. You need to be able to communicate really effectively, especially if there's a conflict between your business partner and you. Lifestyle, you can have different lifestyles and still run a really good business. Like with Flight Path, we have a partner and he's really into the engineering field and he wants to be an engineer. He doesn't want to run a golf brand. He just wanted to invent the product. Mike and I are great operators. We want to build the business, right? So that works there. Honesty, 100%. You need honesty in a business partnership. You have to be transparent there. Self-discipline, you definitely need to have a certain amount of self-discipline. I don't think you need the same level of self-discipline amongst all the partners. And then self-improvement, I think you always need to be improving yourself. And your business partners always need to be improving themselves too, no matter what level they are in the business. And then finances, if all the partners have a voting rights in what happened with the finances, then we definitely need to have all the same values when it comes to finances. So if we're gonna go to the PGA show, in January, right? Everybody needs to agree that we're going to drop 10, 15 grand on the PGA. If we don't agree, then we need to check back on what our values are for finances.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of my experience, when there are partnership disputes, and I deal with a lot of them, and I have dealt with a lot of them in my 19-year career now, things go wrong when things are going well, very well, or when things are going bad. It's just for some reason.
It's just one or the other.
It's one or the other. When the business is about to go south, that's when they start fighting. Or when the business is making a lot of money, they just start fighting again. Something happens along the way. That has been my experience. And it's usually, in terms of what the breakdown, if I was going to look at this list, it's usually the breakdown that happens sometimes is that one partner perceives that the other one might be taking more money that the partner should. Or they go through the bank account and say, listen, I noticed that you spent 10 grand in that Amex. What happened here? Or they went on vacation and something. These are real life scenarios that I'm giving you that they're not exaggerated. They're just, or a partner basically in some actually more obvious cases that, one partner, perhaps more of a silent partner, doesn't look at the finances every time, but then they find out that there's a lot of charges to personal matters from one partner to the other and say, what happened here? So it's just basically, usually the breakdown is, breaks down the loyalty and the trust breaks down there because the one partner says, you know what, I don't trust the other partner. And I've seen situations when one partner decides to take over the business completely. They just, and it's removes them from the corporate records, removes from the bank account. And in Florida, it's so easy to do that, which they don't go have the controls per how the states have, but Florida is so easy. And they call me. Sometimes you have partners being locked out of the business. They just call locksmith, change the locks.
That's scary.
They just basically, remove all the passwords.
Yeah.
So, but the communication is very key. Then I said, okay, what happened? When was the breakdown?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out. Obviously, they went into partnerships together. Everything was going well. Somewhere down the line, one partner decided they want to do their own thing, but they didn't communicate that to the other partner. Instead, they decided to start their own competing company in some cases.
Right.
So, when they come to my office and they call me and say, listen, this happened, one of the partners, not the two of them, obviously, I said, do you have a partnership agreement? And the answer sometimes is no. Most of the time is no. So, and I know you guys have one because I helped you prepare it. So,
thanks, Pops.
But that's one of the keys here is that one of the things when I look at partnership agreements is I really spend some time in the dispute resolution section. Is that creates a mechanism in place to how to resolve business disputes, and that's really one of the things that I spent some time and said, well, if you guys have a disagreement, how are we going to resolve it? This is my suggestion. And what I usually do is let's do, informal settlement conference, mediation. If that does not work, then we can go to court or arbitration. But there's a mechanism in place that, hey, we need to do this first before going straight to court. And there are exceptions to that you might have to go to court straight on, but for the most part, I try to create that. Another thing that I do in my partnership agreements are I try to outline clearly the roles and the responsibilities of the partners. A lot of people download things from the web and they're okay. I mean, they're not terrible, but they don't really talk about your business. They don't give you the details about the levels of authority. Who has access to the bank account, who can write checks, what is the limit of authority. I can write checks for $1,000, but not more than $5,000 in a given month. Obviously, if you need to go and order some box of paper from Amazon, you really don't need to tell your partner, I need paper for my copier. You can just do that. It's $35. But if you're going to buy a big piece of equipment, it's going to cost $3,000. Yes, that's something that should be consulted with. So I try to outline that in the partnership agreement, so that way everybody's on the same page. So we go through a series of questionnaires, we send it out, back, draft, so it's a process. And that really the partnership that I've seen that have worked, they have partnership agreements. They have the distinct areas of responsibilities as well. But in your case, you have a partnership business and in life. How do you take a break? You're together 24/7.
That's something that Mike taught me over the years. He's literally taken the phone like during a day and like put it to the side and said, babe, take a break, between meetings and stuff. I've really learned that. And it's a craft that you have to do over time. It's kind of like meditation and stress reduction. It's like a practice that you have to do. But Mike would probably have way better advice for that.
When it comes to like the business stuff, so we don't ever take a break from talking about business because that is like our lives, but we definitely put time aside to enjoy each other's company. So we have Disney annual passes. We have annual passes to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. So we definitely try to go and have fun with each other outside of work intentionally to do that.
Yeah, I think you had to have a separation. Even those people who are not in partnerships, you know that I work pretty much all the time, but when I go home, I don't take work home.
Yeah.
I just, that's basically my line. When I leave the office, I'm done. I will not see this. And there's always work available. There's always work left in the morning. But when I'm done in the office, I'm done. I always take time to, here I go to the Funky Biscuit a lot, or across the office here, properly. So I think you got to have that time of recreation, that time to connect, and that time to bond. But work cannot be your life, because otherwise it'll consume you. And what happened also, you get burned out.
Yeah.
You cannot perform at 100% if you're always working. Your mind will eventually get tired. If you don't take that mental break from work, it's just going to be, you're going to get burned out. You're not going to be on top of your game. And the type of work that we do, we got to be in the top of our game all the time. So that break is very important. I want to talk about self-discipline in business. And that's a topic that people don't talk too much about. Tell me more about that. When you talk about self-discipline or discipline itself in business, tell me more about break that down. Break that value for me a little bit more.
Yeah, I think self-discipline in business starts with your health. I know that's a personal thing, but it does foil into what you can do in business. If you don't have health, you have nothing. So Mike and I start in the morning by going to the gym. We drink a full glass of water. We go to the gym. We look at that as also a business decision too, because we need to be healthy. We need to have a clear mind. How do you do that? You get some endorphins going in the morning, and then you get that consistency every day, because it's something easy that we can do before 9 a.m. every day. Go to the gym. So that's the first step. I think the second step is figuring out what you actually need to focus on, and then learning how to say no. Especially, Mike and I are in the internet marketing business. We get so many opportunities of companies, brands, whatever, that we can do, acquire, build, whatever, right? And I think in the past, year and a half, 2 years, we've really learned how to say no. And that also takes discipline.
Yes. And that happens to me as well with in clients. I mean, we get a good number of people calling our office to try to get accept their legal services to represent them, and sometimes we just cannot have everybody. We got to go through a screening process. We got to go through a process of qualification, and then if we can help them, if everything means well, then we obviously offer the opportunity to represent them. But sometimes we just cannot do it. So, that I understand that. So, Michael, what do you think about self-discipline?
So I think self-discipline really starts with your lifestyle. So even our employees, we encourage them to go to the gym every day or have a balanced diet, not to just eat sugar and watch TV all day. So we, especially our interns, we tell them what does your day look like? Do you have a calendar? We really want to make sure that everyone at least has some type of structure to their life, because if they're unstructured in their personal life, then the only thing that's going to do is spill over to business, and they're not going to be as productive or efficient. So when it comes to self-discipline, it's a value that we hold dear, because how can you business and life, business is a big part of your life in general, right? You're going to spend most of your day doing something productive to provide value for other people. But if you're not taking care of yourself, how could you possibly provide something really good for someone else?
Well, I'll give you an example of self-discipline. Are the landscapers doing the landscaping outside and giving the special effects here? Benefit of the audience, this is the free stuff. You did not pay for that, so that's free. So hopefully they'll finish soon, but we'll get through it. Yeah.
I think one other thing that I've been really self-disciplined about this past year is being better organized. Like every meeting that we have has an agenda. We make notes for the meeting. All of our legal documents, our corporate documents are all saved in specific folders. I think that's always a second, third, fourth thought from an entrepreneur. So getting more organized has actually made us more money in different ways, because we can pull our EIN documents from very specific places. We know exactly where it's saved, those types of things. I think that's full circle. It comes to what you're doing on the legal side. There's not a lot of people that are very organized like that. And I think if you're really looking to scale your business, I think you have to take the next steps to be organized.
This is a very great point, Caroline. But organization also goes well with time management.
Yeah.
Something that I realized maybe a few months ago, that based on the fact that we're on 24/7 and people have access to us through emails, through text. And there's this, I believe that just because people have access to our emails and phones, we are supposed to respond at any time. And so I realized that there was more tasks and more emails than there's time available to us to get the job done. So not only organization is key, but also time management, because now we're focusing, I think task lists are almost a thing of the past. Now it's about priorities. You're prioritizing. You'll have more task lists than you have time to get it done. Task list for me is like you'll have time to get them done. You won't, unless you work until 11 o'clock every night, and you work 16 hours a day. You cannot sustain that for a long time. So I realized that it's okay. If that's going to be the case, then I have to create more priorities and basically create times. I'm going to do this type of activity at this time, these types of clients. I put out these fires. Our business development, this is the time I do business development. So it's basically based on activity, kind of a block scheduling based on the priorities to make sure I can take care of everyone.
Which also means you say no to certain things too for the day.
Yes, you have to. There's no human possible way to respond to every email as it comes in. As you see it coming in, it's just an impossibility to provide a on-demand type of service. And I think that we're almost going in that direction, that there's a perception that everything's on demand. You get an email, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, you then don't get a response. They email you again, say what happened, and I'm like, well, I'm busy. I'm taking care of things. I try to do that once or twice a day, respond to emails, simply because if you don't create the space to get the work done, you will not get it done. You can actually spend the entire day answering emails and responding to inquiries, but then work will not get done. So it's about priority, and time management now is the key. I know people look at, and we'll talk about financials in a second. People track finances, and I read, various books that talk about, keeping track of your metrics and all that. And nothing wrong about those books. Those metrics are important, but they're backwards looking. And, when I talked to a mastermind group that I belong to, and I said, I have no issue keeping track of these metrics. They're a good historical perspective. But the reality is what happened last week has nothing to do with what's going to happen next week. It's not a predictor of my performance going forward. It only tells me what I did up to last Saturday. So great, I feel great. I had a great week or had a bad week, whatever. But if I had a bad week, then I can have a better week next week. But it's not a predictor. It's simply going backwards. And we cannot spend an entire day keeping track of metrics. Otherwise, you will not work.
Right.
So I look at metrics and at trends. I look for trends, see how things are going, look at the business activity, how is it going to help me to go to the next level. But, I think that the activity that we select on the working hours that we have is critical in terms of getting the organization, but also selecting the productive activities. It's the difference between being busy and being productive. So that's something I learned during my sales training back in college, that you have to basically understand the value of time and also how you allocate, what are you going to do in that time to be productive. So I'm glad you mentioned the issue about, and that goes into self-discipline. The health, I agree. If you don't have health, you don't have everything. And I want to talk about the value of finances, and that is a subject that really brings a lot of partnerships into litigation. Every time I got to file a lawsuit regarding a partnership dispute, it has to do, for the most part, with finances.
Yeah.
Very seldom it does not. It's either somebody took money that they were not supposed to, and that's pretty much usually the case, that when I get involved in some type of lawsuit like that, or somebody gets completely, they don't have access to the accounts, they don't know what's going on. That's usually an issue that has gone along for a long time, and then explodes. So what are the values in terms of a partnership, a business partnership? What are the values need to have in finances?
Well, I'm going to make it really simple. Okay. For the values that we talked about today, there is one golden rule that you always want to follow with a partnership, and that plays right into finances, which is, what's the vision for the company? Where do we want to take it? With Flight Path, our golf brand, our vision is to build that thing to sell it. In the next 3 to 5 years, we're building it for quick growth and to sell it. So whenever we have a big discussion on whatever big decision that we need to make, we always ask ourselves, all the partners, and we say, is this fit with our exit? Does this match the type of growth that we need? And then that makes everything clear up, right? So if you can get to the same vision with your partner and be honest with your partner about that, and if you can both agree on that same vision, then it makes all the other decisions very easy.
That's a great point, Caroline. I think you might want to add one more value to your list. I think vision should be there.
I think, vision is probably the overall one you want to start with.
It's kind of an odd number. I know it's 10. So yeah.
Well, there's the 10 commandments, right?
Yeah.
If we want to talk
11. You have 11 now.
If we want to talk about Catholicism, right? You have the 10 commandments plus the golden rule, and the golden rule is love one another like you want to love yourself, right? So we can have a golden rule on top of all the others, right? Which is have a vision. And Mike and my vision is the same in business as it is in our relationship. We want to have freedom, access to things, and be able to build things with each other, and with people that we love, Would you say that's the same vision?
Yeah, definitely. And then what makes it easy for us, if we don't agree, we don't move forward. Like, we both have to agree, especially if we're going to be spending money to do something. If one of us is not for it, if we're against it, we're just like, all right, it's not let's not move forward with this.
Okay, that is awesome. So something that I saw here is the respect you have for each other.
Yeah.
And that's another value that clearly is there. It's not written there, but I think that the partnership that I see that are successful, they have a great deal of respect for each other, and that's very important. And sometimes I see partnership disputes that come my way, and I ask in the kindest possible way I can ask to the client, how did you guys become partners? How did this happen?
We found each other at a bar. It's like the same thing. We found each other at an entrepreneurship event, and that was it. We didn't even evaluate our skills or anything or what we could contribute. We just hit it off. It's like infatuation or relationship. We found each other at a bar and he was hot, so we started dating. How many friends have started like that? So many.
So,
it's not a logical decision.
But people don't, there has to be some type of connection, even from a business partnership. People have to be on the same page. They have to like each other. It's difficult to work with people you don't like in a personal level. But I see partnerships or partnership disputes that come in, and I'm say, well, how does this happen? This should not happen in the first place. And it's either sometimes people introduce someone else, and then they're like, yeah, we went ahead. He asked me, especially during Thanksgiving when people get together for the holidays. That is really the worst time. People get into partnerships during the holidays.
Oh gosh!
And in January they call me, or it's like it's usually there's always a holiday involved with some type of partnership. Yeah, they told me they wanted to invest in real estate. It was a great idea, and here's $100,000. They told me give me the paperwork later. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. It's really real life scenarios, and I'm like, how does this happen? And
that's scary.
Yeah, but it does. Well, this is a great segment. I want to make you guys going to come. Can you stay with us a little more? I'm going to go ahead and do the next segment. I want to talk about flight path, and I want to talk about clickable impact, and I want to talk about email and performance.
Yeah.
So
we got some time.
So I want to basically finish this segment on partnership. You really enlighten us here with our audience, and you're a successful partnership. And you certainly can be a mentor to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. So how do people find you?
For the agency, we do email marketing on performance. That's our number one offer for e-commerce stores. They can find us on emailonperformance.com.
Okay. You're also on LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn, so you can search Mike Sierra. Mike's on LinkedIn. You can search my name, Caroline Castile, soon to be Caroline Sierra, but I'll probably have to SEO both names, so you can find me either way. But right now it's Caroline Castile. You can find us. We post every week on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want to find us.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being with us. We're going to do another segment and talk. The next one is going to be talking about specifically about your businesses. I'm very excited in digital marketing. You guys are experts in digital marketing, and I had a marketing segment a few episodes ago, because that's, as you know, it's my background as well. But I think you guys have a more of a modern view of marketing since I graduated college in the 80s. So I think there was no web back then. But the principles are the same. So I want to talk about the next segment, but let me close this one here. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at richsierra.com. My website is floridasmallbusinesslegalcenter.com. Are you interested in my legal services? We're in Facebook at FSB Legal. We're in YouTube. If you want to watch the video of this podcast, we're on YouTube at youtube.com at Richard Sierra. We're on Instagram at FSB Legal. If you want to give us a call, find out more about us. Number is 866-842-5202. Remember the Business SOS available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and local libraries. You can ask for it in your local bookstore. If you like the podcast, hope you did. Please follow us, subscribe as well to YouTube channel, and give us a review. That helps the algorithms recommend the show to other business owners as well. Until next week, this is Rich Sierra. And remember, my goal is to help you succeed.